Hi guys, it's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today I've got all of these supplies here because we are going to be DIYing some dividers. So I've got all these supplies and I'll explain everything while we get started or before I get started, but I wanted to show you just an example of one of the dividers that we're going to be making today. I get asked all the time how I made these, where I got these, that kind of thing, and I wanted to show you just from start to finish how I made these. I'm planning to make a set of 4 dividers that are like this, and all of these tools, hopefully I didn't forget any tools, but all of these tools are the ones that I'm going to be using to make these dividers. I'm in fact going to go ahead in this video and label the dividers, these top tab dividers too. And so I have all the tools, I think, at least, here set up. If I forget anything, I'll put it in the description so that way you can pull it. But to start off with, very first thing I have is this. These are the dividers that I use. They're listed, and I'll try to zoom in so you can see it. It says Suez, SOOEZ, but it says Suez Clear Document Folder Project Pockets. And these are like basically document holders that I got on Amazon. Let me go ahead and open it up. Sorry for the noise. Okay, and it comes in a pack of 25, and I only need 4 actually, so just toss that to the side. And so they're these pocket holders. They have like document holders, and they have these pockets here you can see with the like the C shape to kind of like lift up and be able to pull out documents. You can use them obviously to store like letter size paper in here, but these are the ones that I use to cut down to use for my folders. And so I pulled 4 because I'm going to make a set of 4 here. So that's the first thing. I also have here my paper trimmer. This just makes it a little bit quicker to be able to cut this, but most of these supplies you should have on hand. But if you don't have a paper cutter or a paper trimmer, then you can certainly use a pair of scissors. I do also just need a pair of scissors to be able to trim around the top tab. So those 2 things are definitely required. Definitely the scissors are required. You don't need the paper trimmer, that's optional, but it just speeds up the process a little bit. And then I have right here my 2 punches. And so I have, first of all, my arc punch. The arc punch is what I'm going to use to punch just to save time. And I love this thing. I've had this for like probably 7 years now, and it's like absolutely my favorite puncher. The thing with the arc punch, and it's dropping like it's dropping like mushrooms everywhere. But the thing with the arc punch, and you can kind of see it here, is that it punches a little bit more like with a shallow stem compared to the Happy Planner stems. And so the stem is a little bit shorter. You can see here there's like about like a 1/4 inch of a gap between the Happy Planner depth and the arc depth. But to me, like, I don't mind that at all. But if that bothers you, I do recommend that you get this punch. This is the Rearm Memory Keepers Crocodile the Power Punch, and this will punch to the same depth as the Happy Planner. You just have to do it individually. This works well. I do this for all of my like laminated covers, like my 10 mil covers. So I definitely love using this. I just am using this arc punch just to save time, but you definitely need a punch. And I at this point will say, just caveat, do not use your Happy Planner punch to do this project. You can definitely try it if you want to. I think this is it's fairly like thin, and so you might be able to punch through it, but I've had tried it before in like a couple of years ago, and it did jam my punch. So I don't necessarily recommend the Happy Planner punch. It's not really meant to punch through things besides paper. So again, like trimmer, punches, your document folders, and then a couple of other things. I have Sharpies here. This is what I'm going to use to basically trace out the shape of the dividers. If you don't want to use a Sharpie marker, you can certainly use a dry erase, but I went ahead and got the Sharpie, and I brought hand sanitizer because it has enough alcohol in here to be able to just rub off and like get rid of the Sharpie. And so I use that instead of dry erase just because, I don't know, I just like that better. And then the last little thing, oh, and these 2 I'll be using to like be my cheap version of like labels. So I'll do that at the very end. Right, and then the last set of things that I have here are bookmarks and dividers, and like dry erase boards. Now, if you don't have these vision boards, then this is what I'm going to use to trace, just because it saves me time. Again, like it's a full sheet, like it's the classic size, and it has the top tabs already in place. But if you don't have that, then you can certainly do it with like just the regular bookmarks and dividers that the Happy Planner has released, but you also will have to have a classic size sheet of paper to be able to trace all of these. But what you will need is going to be a tab, or like the top tab, like with this one, and then the top tab that's in the second position. So the first one and the second one. And then if you don't have a full size divider, then you'll need a sheet of paper, any random sheet of paper, classic size, to be able to do that. But again, I'm going to use these just because it, again, saves me like having to have the paper and the bookmark. So I'll use these instead, but if you don't have it, then you can certainly use this. Okay, now with that being said, this is, I think it's going to be fairly straightforward. It's just a couple of things that I need to be able to kind of like talk out loud, and hopefully I don't make any mistakes. Last time I did this, which was several years ago, I did make a mistake and punched one of the ones wrong, which is nice that I purchased this because like I can now like remake that folder. But first things first, with setting this up, I just need to move things out of the way so I have space. I'm going to do it for like basically a set of like 4 top tabs, okay? And so I pulled these 4 folders for that. The first thing that you definitely need to make sure that you do is have the bottom here and the edge over here, all right? And that basically the opening is like at the top and the left. And you know, just make sure that it's like that all the way around, because if you cut it the wrong way, then obviously it's not going to be a pocket, or it's going to be an upside down pocket, and your stuff will fall out of your planner, right? And so I'm going to start off with the first one. And again, like make sure the bottom edge and the sealed edges are like the bottom and the right. And you're going to just basically tuck this into the corner here. All right, so again, I'm going to use this Sharpie. And on this side, clearly it will be just like, you know, I have to kind of like not like mess with the edges. But then right here, I just trace the tab. And then all the way around. Okay, and you see what like right here, it basically gives you enough of like a gap between the Sharpie and the dry erase board that you can just basically cut off all of it. But if you end up like leaving a little bit of Sharpie on there, again, like I basically just use hand sanitizer or alcohol, like an alcohol wipe, and just wipe it off. All right, so that's the first one. Then I'm going to do the second one. Again, just making sure that the bottom and the right edge are over there. I always like to lift it up just to double check. All right, and I'm going to put this into the corner. Let me move this out of the way. All right, and again, just, I could draw a straight line, I think, but you know, I'm avoiding all the mushroom stems here. All right, and then again, I'm going to trace, basically the top edge is what I have to like trace all the way around. Make sure I have that. Okay. All right. So I have the first 2, and I'm going to show it to you together. Excuse me. So that's what it looks like. So you can see already you have the first 2 tabs. Now, in order to get the 3rd and the 4th tab, you basically take these 2 boards, and you do the same with the bookmarks too. You just flip it over, right, and use the other side. So again, for like if you're using it with the paper version, you just have the paper down to trace the like the size, and then use the bookmarks to trace, just butt it up against like that right hand edge. Okay, and so I'm going to do the same thing here. Let me move this out of the way again. All right, again, double checking, sealed edge on the bottom and the right. And now this time, because the mushroom stems are on that side, I can basically just trace all the way around this one. This, I really should move my power punch. Like it's like, okay, oops. Right, and this is definitely going to be DIY, so you know, like do not judge. This is my quick and cheap version of like pocket folders. I actually really love like looking at and shopping some of the like goodies that small business owners release, especially like clear covers and clear dividers and top tabs and side tabs and all those types of things. But also, you know, I need to be frugal, so buying a pack of 25 dividers and making them myself, and also like, I mean, I just really love that it's a top tab divider, but it's also a pocket, you know, like it's just something different. You know, I'm able to kind of like not have pocket folders and like both like pocket folders and top tab dividers. I can just have it in one, and these are thin enough that it doesn't take up too much bulk in my planner. And so yeah, so again, I just really like shopping it, but I also like DIYing some of these things. Okay, so now I'm going to put them all together so you can kind of see it. All right? And that's what it looks like. You can kind of see it, I think, with the 3. And one of the things that is here is like there's a bigger overlap here between the 2nd and the 3rd, just because of the way that it's turned. But I'm totally okay with that. Again, it's a DIY project. If you want it to be like perfectly aligned, then that's where you shop small businesses. All right. And so just to show you this, like I did use Sharpie, like I said, and of course we think of Sharpie as like permanent, but if you just wipe it off, as soon as you like do it, or like, you know, within a few days, I wouldn't leave it on there for like months and months and months. But if you just wipe it off pretty recently after you do it, I should use way more like alcohol wipes. It will come off and you can see all the coloring here. I'm not going to worry so much about the dry erase boards. I don't actually use dry erase boards for anything. I was using them for dividers, but I'll definitely have to make sure that I clean up the Sharpie lines here. So yeah, that's pretty much, like, I mean, it does work. Like, it does work. You can actually use Sharpies on your dry erase boards too, by the way, just FYI, tip for you. All right, so again, I'm going to be using the paper trimmer for most of this. I'll trim around like the the top tab here and just use scissors for that. But if you don't have a paper trimmer, then certainly you can just use your scissors for the entire thing. For my paper trimmer, I do have like a guiding line right here. And so I'm just going to, I just need space. I'm like falling off the table here. Okay, so I'm going to just cut all the way basically on the left-hand side, and then on this side, I'm going to basically cut as much as possible on the straight line, and then just leave enough space to kind of like do some like cutting around the scissors. And again, I'm just using my edge marks. All right, I actually should not have lifted that out, but like that works too for visual purposes. But like it just cut, you know, just like that. All right, and I'm just gonna do that for all of these. Okay, I've definitely trimmed off like basically the left hand, or like the one of the like the longer edge, and then I have the top here, and I'm just gonna use my scissors to trim this out. And I do try to trim it, you know, like where I'm just getting rid of the Sharpie markings, but it's totally okay if I leave it on there too. But I just carefully just trim the edge. And I tried around these corners. Obviously I want to do that. And one thing that will be something to be aware of is that you are cutting through 2 sheets, so just make sure that you're holding it so that way, you know, the edge stays the same, or like, you know, is cut through both sides. So just make sure that you're keeping a firm grip on it. All right, and so again, this is totally DIY, so I'm not expecting perfection, but I'm going to trim these out. Okay, they are done now. Yeah, perfect. Like, they're perfect to me, at least. And I did cut it out enough to where like there's no Sharpie markings on there, so I don't need to do the like hand sanitizer trick. But yeah, now all I need to do is punch and label them. So again, like, you can certainly use the Power Punch to be able to do this. If you're using this, I would definitely recommend using a like classic size sheet and just like using it as like the beginning guide. At least there's like a little bit of Sharpie right there. But just using like a sheet of paper, so that way you can kind of like make a mark for like where your initial cut should be. But yeah, I'm just going to use my arc punch, as I've already mentioned, just because it will save me time. And I love my arc punch. You know, I don't have to worry about like having things kind of be mismeasured, or like, you know, just messing up with the Power Punch. Now, again, just making sure, because it's DIY and sometimes these mistakes are made, just make sure that you're punching on the correct edge. So the edge that you want to punch is the open edge. All right, and so you want it to be the edge that is open. My arc punch, I have already created a mark on here to be classic size. So I don't know if you can see it. It's like a little red mark right there. That's classic size. But again, it's just like I just used like a classic size page and just kind of like marked it. But now I'm just going to punch it again, just keeping in mind I need to punch it on the open edge. Make sure it's all the way in. And get it punched. All right, open edge, all the way in and punch it. Like, see, this is not the open edge. Just make sure I'm flipping it. All right, this is the open edge. Make sure that's all the way in. All right, and then this should be the open edge right here. Okay, perfect. All right, and then now here's what they look like. All right, again, these are the 4 top tabs. Like, here's a little bit more Sharpie here. I'm noticing all these like things right here. Okay, so that's what they look like. I think they're beautiful. They're nice and clean now. Like, they're not all scuffed up like my old ones. So I might just continue making more. But like, these are the 4. And I'm going to go ahead and label these. And so again, like being DIY and cheap, the way I'm going to do this is basically to use some tape. And this is just regular like Scotch tape. I just pull off a piece. If I can pull it off, like I might have to use a pair of scissors. Like I can't even, like, all right. I don't know why, but like that edge doesn't cut anymore. So anyway, it's just regular Scotch tape. And what I do, sometimes I cut it in half because you don't really need that big of a sheet of paper. But I normally just put it on the desk, but like this is like paper and it will rip. So what I do is just use like the ultra fine tip, like Sharpie marker. Just this kind of marker, and I write what each category is going to be. And the way I like to label mine is 1, 2, 3, 4. I know people like to do 1, 2, 3, 4, but I like to pull from the outside in. And you know, like this is much easier for me to like grab and flip. So I always like to label this as the very first tab. And I'm gonna go ahead and label this for Sophia's section of her memory book, and I'm just going to replace her memory book dividers with this set, and then just move her set that's currently in the Franken Planner into a different set. But for Sophia, just because I know what she needs, there's going to be a monthly. All right, and I just write on this Scotch tape just like that. I did write it with this purple marker, right, and pull it off my hand. And I'm not worried about the stickiness or any of that type of stuff, but I am worried about like this being too long. So I do need to trim it just a little bit more. All right. And then because this is a pocket folder, what I like to do is, just because I can, I like to put the label on the inside. Just like that. All right. All right, and again, it's DIY. It's not perfect, but it will get the job done, right? And if you have a label maker, obviously use that. If you have labels already made by a small business, you can certainly use those as well. I just don't have any of those things on hand. So I'm just going to do it my way. And that's that. This might be a little bit easier. Let me try it this way. This is how I normally do it, is just to go ahead and put the tape down and write on it. But that one's a little bit, it's in the corner, so I just can't lift it up quite as easily. So I'm going to put this down first. All right. And this one is going to be past. I'm going to label it past. It's basically the past weekly that I'm working on. And, you know, I'm still trying to catch up in memory planning, of course, always, right? And so that's just marking where I need to kind of pick up. I like to memory plan in chronological order. So whatever week I've stopped on, that's the week that I will just, you know, whenever I sit down to memory plan, I'm going to start at that week, the very last week that I've stopped at. And then, of course, I need the current week. So for memory planning in particular, I like to just kind of like put in like post-it notes, sticky notes, all like the notes on sticky notes, or like just on a sheet of paper, and just kind of use the weekly for that. All right, and then for Sophia's memory book, I have the question and answer journal that I have for her, and so I'm going to use this last one for that question and answer. And of course, your labels can be whatever you'd like. They will be whatever works for you. All right, and I am lifting it up, so it's kind of hard to write, and it's going to be a little bit messy, but that's okay. All right, so question and answer. All right, and that is that with her 4 sections. And again, like, I'm going to go through and label all of my dividers. Now that I've been in the planner for about a month, I have a piece of tape on me. Now that I've been into my Franken planner for about a month, I am loving it. I have really enjoyed having all the sections together, but I also, you know, really like to have labels. And so I'm going to go ahead and label them. You can see here they're very faint, but that's totally okay with me. And so this was the first part of like me kind of updating my Franken planner to be able to like be functional for me. I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, off camera after this video, just update and create labels for all of my other sections with my dividers, which are created just like this, just they're older, so a little bit more scuffed up, but I'm just gonna go ahead and label all of them, and then I will in the next week or so create my like more permanent labels for my covers. So I'm super excited about that. Again, like, I'm really feeling comfortable with my setup right now with my Franken planner, and I'm gonna move in, officially move in. So this is what it looks like. So anyway, this video, of course, is for me updating my own planner, but I hopefully was able to like give you like how I did it from start to finish, so that way you could be able to do this yourself. I think it's quite easy to be able to create these dividers, and again, like, the benefit here to me is like they're top tabs, which I love using top tabs, but it's also a pocket, you know, which can really help you save both, because you can just store all the things in here without needing a pocket folder. So I like to be able to put stickers and photos and all the things to be able to use it as I go through, especially with memory keeping. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this gave you the, you know, hopefully a little bit of inspiration just to be able to make this yourself. It's not that hard, I promise. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, and until the next video, bye guys.